Hello, YouTube. All right. I was getting ready to head out, but decided to deal with mail that my wife brought me the other day. And this is basically a voter registration card. Yeah. And they just mailed me out the new voter registration card since I had to update my address since I left Walter's house, which was my home base for a while. And right now, even though I'm kind of in the van, some viewers, especially those who are new to van dwelling, may have questions about like addresses. How do you handle an address? Well, basically the address on your driver's license is the address they use to determine like your residence, or at least where they can mail official information and forms and things to you. So what happened when we lost Walter's house? We lost like an address. But even prior to that, I had some backup addresses. And how it works is this. You basically need an address for your driver's license. And that can be a temporary address or a permanent address. It's a way for the state or any official information to get to you. It's what goes on file as your home address. So if you're living in a van, you still need an address. And how do you get an address? Well, the easiest way, or is to basically have a family member or friend, a good friend, who will let you use their mailing address. And then you specify that that is your mailing address, where they can mail all official stuff and where you're registered, and it's considered like your home address. It cannot be like a post office box. You can get a post office box to receive mail, for like regular day-to-day stuff, but anything official like court paperwork, voter registration, and all that will be based upon a physical address of where you list as your home address, if you want to call it that. And you're like, well, how do you handle not having a permanent address? Well, when I go to do my license or whatever, I explain to them the situation and say, this is where I'm getting my mail. Am I living there? Partially. I get my mail and all my official stuff there. It's a temporary address. It's not a permanent address. But it's where I'm living, sort of. Or I could explain to them the fact that I'm homeless. Basically, it's not an issue. Being homeless is not a crime. Okay? Being homeless, you still need an address. So typically you try to get family that will hold your mail for you, or friends, and that becomes your new address. Now, if you're totally on the road and traveling, you could pick there's lots of videos by other YouTubers who may know more about this subject than I do. Different states. Some states are friendly to RVers and stuff like that. I don't know if Utah is one of them, but there's several. Which, if I was really doing a video on it, I could research and pass on the information. But you could probably Google it, or ask the information in the Living in a Van Facebook group, and people should be able to chime in and tell you what state makes the best mailing address. But for me, I'm living in Florida right now, and specifically Brevard County. So like right now, I consider this home, and Brevard County is where I do my voting and stuff. And I get the voter's card sent to the address that would be on my driver's license, which they have on file as, my temporary address, where I'm staying temporarily. It's not a permanent address in that it's not a home. So I did that when I was a mailman down in South Florida. I had addresses that I gave them, and told them the situation, that it wasn't permanent, it was temporary. And the DMV had no problem with that. So if you have any questions, it's best to ask the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicle, for your state, wherever you're registered and what you consider a home state. And if you don't have a permanent residence, you can ask them. There's no crime. It's not a crime to not have a home, okay? It may be a crime to lie and make up stuff. When in doubt, ask the officials, because that's who you're dealing with. All these rules about driver's license, insurance, they're all official in the sense that you're basically under a contract, an agreement with either the state, the county, or the country, or even the insurance company. So when you have a question as to, what's legal, what's not legal, you can simply ask. Don't do it until you got the information and you know what the implications are. Like if they tell you certain things and you're like, well, that's not good, then it's kind of up to you whether or not you want to comply or you don't want to comply. And if you don't comply, it could be a cause for it could be considered illegal, doing something that you're not complying with, or it could be not so much illegal, but a breach of contract, or, like if you tell the insurance company something different about your vehicle than what it is, then they may not honor the insurance. Like even though Little Blue 2 right now can be, has been converted to be a camper that I can live in, she's still a regular van. She hasn't really been modified. If you look at her, the seats can fold back up and she becomes a passenger van. So she's still classified as a passenger vehicle, not an RV. And when they ask me if she's been modified in any way, the answer is no. And the reason is I haven't actually changed her structurally. She still has the middle seats. The back seats have been removed. Think of it like this. My van right now is hauling stuff. If I'm carrying things that I can sleep in or sit in and stuff, it doesn't mean I've modified the vehicle. It just means I'm using the vehicle to haul things. So right now, I'm on a power charger here, so I can't really turn the camera. But so when you're, I'm gonna put this on the camera, and I think we're gonna drive and talk a little bit. But basically, when you're driving in a vehicle that you've modified, but you haven't really modified it, it's basically a van, you are going to classify it as a regular passenger vehicle in this case, because this van, 2003 Dodge Grand Caravan, is indeed a passenger vehicle. And right now, it still functions as a passenger vehicle. All the seat belts are there, all the, well, not all the seats, the middle row bench seats are there, rear bench seats are missing. Although I had, at one time, modified a wooden seat, but no one sat in it. It's just meant to be used as a workstation. But right now, the vehicle is still a regular van by all legal or practical definitions, even though, I can sleep in it and cook in it and live in it. It's still a regular passenger vehicle. It's not officially an RV. Now, what I'm contemplating doing, potentially, now that Blue is running somewhat well, other than the battery issue here, which I'm getting ready to swap out when I get to beachside. What I'm contemplating on doing, though, is asking the insurance company what it takes to convert this van into an RV. So that's going to be a call that I have to make to my insurance provider and ask, I'm going to just outright ask them and say, hey, I'm thinking of converting my van, which is a 2003 Dodge Grand Caravan, which you currently have insured, into a full-blown RV. What does it have to be classified as an RV, and will you insure it? And I do this before I make the modifications because I want to know what the legal implications are. What you don't want to do is modify your vehicle without notifying the insurance company. Because then, if you get in a wreck, your insurance company will say the policy is void. The vehicle you insured isn't the one you're driving because you modified it and you didn't notify them. So, when in doubt, check with the source. Notice I say check with the source because it may vary by insurance company, it may vary by state, or even country. So, check with your insurance company. Do it before you make the modifications or before you buy the vehicle. Like, for example, you want to know how much it costs to insure an RV or a van or a car, you need to call the insurance company and get a quote before you make the purchase, because you don't want to make the purchase, then decide or find out you can't afford it. So the same applies to modifying a vehicle for traveling and living in. Call the insurance company, and if yours doesn't cover it, check another insurance company. Find out what the legal requirements are. Like for me, with the air conditioning working in Little Blue 2, she suddenly became very desirable to live in. I just got to figure out this battery issue. The battery, once I swap out a newer battery, if it fixes the problem is solved. I'm debating if I want to make a new battery pack or if I'll make a smaller battery pack that's lighter to carry, just won't hold less of a charge. it'd be less useful, but still usable. Unless I go lithium ion somehow, order lithium ion packs and build my own really nice pack that's lightweight and very powerful. But for now, though, you know, the question is, if I decide to modify Little Blue 2 instead of buying an RV, then we know the van has, you know, a lot of miles on it and having all sorts of issues, but with all the fixes that have occurred, she's actually running the best she's ever run, other than the battery. You know, but it's always like that's the thing about having an older vehicle. It's always something. Now, I was told that, you know, RVs are money pits, and I did have an RV before, but I never really got to live in it or take it out or drive and live in it and travel in it, because I lost it, you know, as part of the, it's ugly, but it had to do with the divorce. It was so messy. I had the RV and I sold it like only $800 or $600, and it was a really nice Class C RV, because I couldn't find a place to park it, because back then I didn't know that I could just simply drive around and live in it. So if I had an RV now, I kind of know a little bit about how to stealth park it, but I already know issues like, you know, RVs stand out, people don't like it parked there. I do know that I could park at various Walmarts and stuff if I don't stay more than a day. I also know several other places potentially where I could park it, but you're constantly on the move. If you're in RV